Okay, so I'm looking at the 9 volts. I want to solve for all these variables here. On the left here, what I'm going to do is, since it's 9 volts, I'm going to write down 9 volts right here. Okay. And I'm going to solve for all the variables listed here. Okay, so EO, IL, PRL, ESO, IT, all of them. What I've written down here already is what's given. RL of 1K is given, 1K. The 100 ohm for RS also given, right over here. So they're all going to have 100 ohm. The EO is basically the EZ, the voltage across the Zener, 6.8 volts. Well, the EO is the same value here. And the whole purpose of the Zener is to maintain a certain voltage. It's a voltage regulator. So if I have 6.8 volts across the Zener here, it means I have 6.8 volts across the load. That's the whole purpose of this, okay? So here I have the order in which I suggest you solve for variables. So what is ESO? ESO is the voltage here, okay? So I have 9 volts. So using Kirchhoff's, if I have 9 volts here, and this will take 6.8. So it's kind of like what we did before. It's the same step, but here we had 7.5 volts. So 7.5 volts minus 6.8 give us 0.7 volts here. Now we're increasing the voltage. We move down to the next row in the table. So we're looking at an ESO of 9 volts minus 6.8. So type it out. 9 volts.
2.2 I got.
Minus, okay, good. 6.8 volts is equal to 2.2 volts. So far, so good. So as I said, draw this for each and every one, and then when you get the value, write it down, 2.2 volts. And you know that since you have 2 variables now, the 2.2 volts here, and you have the 100 ohm, I could get the next variable, which is IT. Let's get right here, okay? So I've got the voltage, and I've got the resistor value. I can get IT. IT, I'll just plug in the numbers. ESO, well, we'll just solve for that, 2.2 volts. And we're going to divide by RS, which is a given value, 100 ohm. So 2.2 divided by 100 will give us 22 milliamps. So I'm going to draw that in as well, 22 milliamps. So my current here is 22 milliamp. And remember that current is going to be split. This is IT. Eventually, the 1K resistor RL is going to take a certain amount of current, and then the rest will go to IZ. Any questions? We're doing good?
So far.
Okay. Do you need a bit more time before I continue?
Yeah, I would prefer.
Okay, so we're just going to plug in what we've solved for here. The 2.2, the ESO, 2.2 volts right here. That's the voltage across the resistor. IT was 22 milliamps. IT 22 milliamps right here. Okay, what can we solve for next? Well, we have 2 variables here as well. So IL, so the current here. IL is 6.8. So 6.8 volts divided by RL of 1K. And this is not going to change. It's 6.8 milliamps. So 6.8 milliamps, that's IL. So we're going to go to IL here, 6.8 milliamps. And we're going to write it here as well. .8. This is going to help us solve for IZ. So this is 6.8 milliamps. So IZ, if I'm supplying 22 milliamps, that's IT. And this branch here is taking 6.8, then the remainder will go to IZ. So that's how we solve for IZ. IZ is equal to IT minus IL. So IT was 22 milliamps. We're going to subtract, what was it, 6.8 milliamps. So 22 milliamps minus 6.8 is 15.2 milliamps. 15.2 milliamps.
Okay.
I'm going to write it right over here. 15.2 milliamps. Why am I writing it? Well, when I'm looking for the wattage here afterwards, it'll be a lot easier if I have it written down. 15.2 milliamps. Since I solved for IZ, I'm going to write it down here as well. 15.2 milliamps. The EO is EZ. This is not going to change either. 6.8. The voltage across the Zener is the voltage across the load. 6.8 volts. So again, what I'm left with is the three powers: PRL, PRS, and PZ. So PRL is the power across resistor RL. Well, that power is the 6.8 volts multiplied by the 6.8 milliamps. So 6.8 volts multiplied by 6.8 milliamps. So 6.8 multiplied by 6.8 milli is 46.24. 46.24 milliwatts. I can write it down here, my PRL in the square right here, 46.24 milliwatts. Okay, so that's the wattage of this resistor here. On the right, the load resistor, that's my wattage. Now I can figure out the wattage of my Zener and the wattage across my RS resistor. So PRS, ESO is 2.2 volts, multiplied by IT of 22 milliamps. So 2.2 multiplied by 22 milli is 48.4. 48.4 milliwatts. I can pencil it in here. PRS, this column right over here, 48.4 milliwatts. And I've got one left, PZ. So PZ, power across the Zener. EZ is EO, which is 6.8 volts. 6.8 volts. And I'm going to multiply by IZ. And IZ was 15.2. 15.2 milliamps. So 6.8 volts multiplied by 15.2 milli is 103.36. 103.36 milliwatts. Pencil it in. 103.36 milliwatts.